Little Mariah clutched her empty belly as she walked barefoot along the cobbled streets of Charleston, South Carolina. The sun hung low, casting long shadows of grand colonial houses. Her small frame, wrapped in a faded cotton dress, blended into the background as she moved carefully, avoiding the sharp eyes of passersby. The scent of freshly baked bread wafted from a bakery window, making her mouth water. Mariah lived in a shanty on the outskirts of town with her sickly mother and baby brother. Her mother often whispered tales of better days when they still had her father's steady hands working the docks. But now, his absence left an emptiness that no words could fill. Hunger gnawed at Mariah daily, like a beast that never slept. She paused near a white picket fence, her dark eyes scanning the yard of a grand estate. Behind the house, a lush garden sprawled with fruit trees and a table laid out for tea. Plates of sandwiches, cakes, and fruits glistened in the late afternoon light. The laughter of two well-dressed children echoed from a distance. They were playing with a golden-haired dog, oblivious to the world outside their manicured paradise. Mariah's heart raced. She had never stolen anything before. Her mother's stern warnings about honesty rang in her ears, but the pangs in her stomach were louder. Slowly, she crept around the fence, staying close to the hedges. The gap in the garden gate offered a perfect opportunity. She slipped in like a shadow, her bare feet silent on the grass, her gaze fixed on the table where the food rested. The cakes were stacked high, their creamy layers glistening in the sunlight. A loaf of bread sat nearby, its crust golden and inviting. Mariah darted forward, snatching the bread with trembling hands. She clutched it to her chest, its warmth a fleeting comfort. Her escape seemed within reach when she heard a sharp voice. "Hey, what are you doing?" Mariah froze. A tall woman in a starched apron stood at the back door, her face twisted with indignation. The children stopped playing and turned toward the commotion. Fear coursed through Mariah as the woman marched toward her. She clutched the bread tighter, her instinct screaming to run, but her legs felt like lead. "You thief!" The woman barked, grabbing Mariah's arm. The bread tumbled from her grasp, hitting the ground with a dull thud. "How dare you come here and take what doesn't belong to you?" Tears welled in Mariah's eyes, but she bit her lip, refusing to cry. "Please, ma'am," she whispered, her voice barely audible. My mama, she's sick. And my brother." The woman's expression softened for a moment, but only briefly. "That's no excuse," she said, her grip tightening. "You can't just take things because you're hungry. You need to—" "Let her go, Mrs. Harper," interrupted a new voice. Mariah turned to see a young girl, about her age, stepping forward. Her blonde curls bounced as she moved, and her blue eyes locked onto Mariah's tear-streaked face. "She's just hungry. It's only bread." The girl's brother appeared beside her, holding the golden dog by its leash. "Yeah, let her have it," he said. "We have plenty, Mrs." Harper huffed but released Mariah's arm. The girl bent down and picked up the bread, brushing off the dirt. She extended it toward Mariah, who hesitated. "Go on," the girl said with a small smile. "Take it." Mariah's hands trembled as she accepted the bread. Her voice wavered. "Thank you. Thank you so much. Do you want something to drink too?" the girl asked, glancing back at the table. "We have milk and lemonade." Mariah shook her head, clutching the bread tighter. "No, I have to go." Before Mrs. Harper could protest, the girl stepped forward and whispered, "Wait." She placed an apple and a small jar of jam in Mariah's hands. "For your family." Mariah's lips quivered, and for the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope. "Thank you," she said again, her voice cracking. She turned and ran, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and gratitude. As she passed through the garden gate and back onto the streets, she glanced over her shoulder. The girl was still standing there, waving goodbye. When Mariah reached the safety of her shanty, she found her mother awake, her frail body propped up against the wall. Mariah placed the bread, apple, and jam before her, tears streaming down her face. "Where did you get this?" her mother asked, her voice weak but full of concern. "From an angel," Mariah replied softly. Her mother smiled faintly, her eyes shining with pride and sadness. For Mariah, the food wasn't just a meal. It was a reminder that kindness could pierce even the darkest moments of life.